My ex-wife expected me to pay for her stepdaughter's school trip, saying it's not fair for her to feel left out. When I refused, she demanded I treat all her kids like my own. Now she's asking me to buy her a house so they can have equal living standards. But this time I drew the line. Hello, Reddit I plus here. I'm starting to wonder if I'm being unreasonable here, because my ex-wife seems convinced that having children in the same household somehow makes me financially responsible for all of them. For context, I'm 36 and my ex-wife, Rachel, is 35. We were together for a little over a year when she got pregnant with twins. We were young, overwhelmed, and honestly, we had no business trying to force a relationship just because we were about to become parents. Still, we tried. We moved in together, tried to build a family, and convinced ourselves that maybe the relationship would get better once the babies arrived. It didn't. We loved our kids, but we were terrible as a couple. We argued about money, priorities, communication, pretty much everything. By the time the twins were 2, we finally admitted that staying together was doing more harm than good. Surprisingly, our breakup was pretty peaceful. We agreed that the twins would spend roughly half their time with each of us. Neither of us paid formal child support because we both had similar incomes and split the children's expenses fairly. School supplies, clothes, medical bills, activities, everything was handled between us. For several years, it worked. Then Rachel remarried. Her new husband, Greg, had a daughter, Mia, who was only a few months older than our twins. At first, I had absolutely no problem with it. Mia was a kid. None of this was her fault. I wanted my twins to have a good relationship with their stepsister, and I never treated her badly. But Rachel slowly started confusing being kind to a child with becoming financially responsible for that child. It started with little things. If I took my twins to the movies, she'd ask me to bring Mia. If I bought my kids birthday presents, she'd ask what I bought Mia. If I took them out for dinner, she'd ask why I didn't invite everyone. I didn't mind including Mia occasionally. What bothered me was that it gradually stopped being a request and became an expectation. One weekend, I took the twins camping. Rachel called me the night before. Can you take Mia too? I told her I hadn't planned for another child and didn't have the equipment. She said, she's family? I said, I understand that, but she's not my child. That sentence caused a huge argument. Rachel told me I was creating divisions between the children. I told her I wasn't creating anything. I was simply acknowledging reality. Eventually, Rachel and Greg had another child together, a little boy. Later, Greg's teenage nephew came to live with them permanently, after some problems in his own family. Suddenly, their household went from 3 children to 4, and somehow Rachel's expectations of me kept growing. Whenever I did something for my twins, she would say, "What about the others?" If I bought my daughter a new laptop for school, Rachel would ask whether Mia was getting one. If I paid for my son's sports registration, she'd ask whether I was going to contribute toward Mia's activities. I repeatedly told her the same thing. I love the kids. I'll always treat them respectfully, but I'm responsible for our twins. You're responsible for your household. She never liked that answer. Then came the school trip. The twins' school was organizing a 5-day educational trip to a science and technology center, several hours away. It included workshops, overnight accommodation, outdoor activities, and museum visits. The trip wasn't cheap. It cost about $850 per student. My twins had been talking about it for weeks. They were excited, and I could afford it, so I paid both fees. I figured that was the end of it. It wasn't. Rachel called me that evening. I heard you paid for the trip. Yeah, the kids really wanted to go. There was a long silence. Then she said, so what about Mia and the others? I honestly thought I had misunderstood her. What about them? They can't afford it. I said, okay. She sounded offended. Okay? That's all you have to say. I told her I wasn't sure what she wanted me to do. She said, you know how hurtful it's going to be for them to watch the twins leave while they stay home? I replied, Rachel, I paid for my children. She immediately became angry. You can't keep doing this. Doing what? Treating them like they're separate. I reminded her that they were separate families. She said, they're siblings. I said, they're step-siblings. That made her furious. She accused me of being selfish and said I was teaching the twins that they were more important than the other children. I told her that wasn't true. I was simply spending my money on my own children. Then Greg got involved. He called me and gave me a lecture about blended families. He said, you can't pick and choose which kids deserve opportunities. I replied, actually, I can choose how I spend my money. He didn't appreciate that. He told me the children shouldn't have to suffer because their parents couldn't afford the trip. I asked him a simple question. If you believe the trip is important, why aren't you paying for it? He said he was already supporting 4 children. I said, and I'm supporting 2. He told me I was missing the bigger picture. I told him he was trying to make his financial problem my responsibility. That's when Rachel made what I thought was an unbelievable suggestion. She said I should just pay for everybody, not only the school trip, everything. She said that if I wanted the twins to have a certain standard of living, I needed to make sure the other children weren't left behind. I told her absolutely not. She said I was destroying the family dynamic. I said, your family dynamic isn't my financial responsibility. She hung up. For several days, I thought that was the end of it. Then she sent me a message saying she had been thinking about the situation. She said she had another solution. She wanted me to help her and Greg buy a bigger house. Apparently, their current house was becoming overcrowded, and the twins had better living conditions when they stayed with me. According to Rachel, that was unfair. She wanted me to contribute a substantial amount toward a new house so all the children could have similar living standards. I stared at the message for probably 5 minutes. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I asked her if she was seriously requesting that I buy a house for her household. She replied, I'm asking you to help create equality for all the children. That was the moment something finally clicked for me. This wasn't about the school trip. It wasn't about fairness. It wasn't even really about the children. Rachel had slowly convinced herself that because our twins connected us, I was somehow a financial resource for her entire household. And every time I gave in, the expectation grew. First it was meals, then activities, then gifts, then school expenses, now a house. I told her I wasn't contributing a single dollar toward a house for her and Greg. She called me selfish. Then she called me bitter. Then she accused me of wanting her other children to struggle. I finally told her something I'd been avoiding for years. Your children aren't struggling because I refuse to pay for them. You're struggling because you've built a household that you can't comfortably afford. She didn't respond for almost an hour. Then she sent me a message saying the twins were going to resent me one day for treating their siblings differently. That one actually hurt. Because I've never treated those kids badly. I've taken Mia out for ice cream. I've helped her with homework when she was around. I've bought her small gifts for birthdays. I've attended school events when the twins were involved. But I've never pretended to be her father, and I don't think I should have to. The twins are now 10, and they're old enough to understand that different households have different rules and different finances. They know their mom has a husband and other children. They know I have my own home. They know that I love them more than anything. And honestly, I don't want them growing up believing that loving someone means you're automatically responsible for paying their bills. After I refused to help buy the house, Rachel stopped speaking to me, except when absolutely necessary. She even told the twins that some adults don't understand what family means. That was the final straw. I contacted her and told her that if she continued involving the kids in our financial disagreements, I would only communicate through a parenting app. Since then, things have actually been calmer. The twins went on their school trip. They had an amazing time. I picked them up afterward, and they spent the entire car ride telling me stories about everything they had seen. Not once did they mention Mia. Not once did they ask why she wasn't there. They were just happy. And that's when I realized something. The adults were the ones making this complicated. The kids weren't asking me to provide the same things for everyone. They weren't keeping score. They weren't demanding equality. The adults were. So now I'm sticking to my boundary. I will pay for my children's needs. I'll help them when they need me. I'll make sure they have opportunities. And I'll continue treating the other kids with kindness and respect. But I am not paying for another family's school trips. I'm not buying another family's cars. And I'm definitely not buying another family's house. Maybe that makes me selfish. Maybe I'm wrong. But at what point does blended family stop meaning emotional support and start meaning you should pay for everybody? Because honestly, I'm starting to think my ex-wife isn't asking me to be part of their family. She's asking me to finance it. So Reddit, am I actually being unreasonable here?